Welcome to the history of occupational therapy through the 18th and 19th century. While occupational therapy was not even called OT at this time, there were still very significant individuals, atmosphere, and cultural ideas that influenced the early beginnings of occupational therapy. We hope you enjoy your journey back in time. William Tuke, he was born in 1732 and died 1822. He was the fourth father of the moral treatment. He advocated largely for more humane treatment of individuals with mental illness. Dorothea Dix would later advocate for the same standards.
As a Quaker and a wealthy merchant, I was given the opportunity to focus on philanthropy. I heard about the deplorable conditions of the asylum in York, England, and I decided I just had to do something about it. I presented my concern to the fellow Quakers at the Society of Friends and continued to rally for the York retreat. After 6 months of hard work, I was able to become superintendent, and I got to work side by side by physician Thomas Fowler. We really wanted the environment to be a lot like a family, kind but firm. We also pushed for the importance of patients engaging in useful occupations like tea parties and walks. I'm proud to say that my son and grandson Samuel and Henry Tuke joined in my cause for moral treatment to pave the way for our clients.
One major theme of the Enlightenment was increased tolerance. In accordance with this theme, Philippe Pinel, a physician credited with founding psychiatry in France, he advocated for more humane treatment of individuals in asylums. In Pinel's memoir on madness, dated in 1794, he argues that a madman can, in fact, be cured. In this memoir, he stated that if a mature man has a strong constitution, if the cause of his madness is a violent passion, and the attacks occur periodically, then reason eventually regains its rights, provided the madman is guided wisely and pursues work or a hobby with regularity. Upon reflection, late in the 18th century, Pinel seemed to have tapped into the idea that occupation can serve as the treatment of illness.
Contrary to ancestral beliefs, I believe those who are mad are not so different than you or I. As I have said, a large gather of madmen inspires an undefinable thoughtful tenderness when one realizes that their present state derives from a vivid sensitivity and from psychological qualities that we value highly. An individual is not necessarily born mad. The excessive sensitivity that characterizes very talented persons may become a cause for the loss of their reason. Further, madness fails to encompass an individual in their entirety. On the contrary, the disorder usually attacks only one partial faculty, such as the perception of ideas, judgment, reasoning, imagination, memory, or psychological sensitivity. Sometimes, a madman carries such a label with him his entire life, regardless of his status. I seek to change the way the world treats those considered to be mad, especially in asylums. For example, at Bicêtre Hospital, where I serve as a physician, the employees are expressly forbidden to retaliate even if they are hit. I admit, though, that I have found myself limited in the ways in which I can treat the madmen in my society.
Benjamin Rush was born in 1746 in Byberry Township, Pennsylvania. He was the son of John Rush, a farmer and gunsmith, and Susanna Hall Harvey. After his father's death in 1751, his mother moved to Philadelphia, where she ran a grocery store to help support the family. At the age of 8 years old, Rush was sent to live with his uncle, Reverend Dr. Samuel Finley. Finley was a pastor and headmaster of Nottingham Academy. He saw to that Rush received an education, and Rush entered the College of New Jersey, now Princeton, in 1759, receiving an A.B. On returning to Philadelphia, Rush came in contact with one of the most prominent American physicians of the time. From 1761 to 1766, he apprenticed under John Redmond and attended the first lectures of John Morgan and William Shipman Jr. at the newly founded Department of Medicine in the College of Philadelphia. During these years, Rush also began his lifelong habit of regularly making entries in his commonplace book, including notes that later afforded the only written eyewitnesses account of 1762 yellow fever epidemic in Philadelphia. On July 20th, 1776, the Constitutional Convention of Pennsylvania voted to send the less conservative delegation, which included Rush, to represent Pennsylvania in Congress. Rush took his seat in the Second Continental Congress on July the 22nd and signed the Declaration of Independence on August 2nd. He was the only signer holding a medical degree.
I was once known as the founding father of American psychiatry. For many years, I worked as a physician in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Hospital. Early on in my career, I spent time training in Europe, where I learned of Felipe Pinel. I was very intrigued by his theories on moral treatment. When I returned to America, I used the information I had learned from Pinel and began to fight for humane treatment of persons who had been declared insane. There are still people, after all. Eventually, my work led me to be placed in charge of the psychiatric ward of the Pennsylvania Hospital. This was the first ward of its kind in America. I used goal-directed activities, or what was later known as occupations, to encourage recovery in my patients. From the beginning of time, mankind was intended to be active. And so many times when a person was diagnosed as insane, they were locked away. Often they were no longer treated as people, but more like dangerous animals. This sedentary lifestyle did little to further recovery. By teaching the patients to do activities which both encouraged mind and body, we began to see improvement. Aimless exercises which only focus on the body still leave the mind sedentary. Occupation-based treatment is both more stimulating mentally and also give the patients a sense of purpose. We found patients recovered more fully when all aspects of the person are taken into consideration.
Dorothea Dix organized the Women's Nursing Corps during the Civil War. She was a large advocate for the moral treatment, and she was born in 1802 and she died in 1887.
The year was 1841 in Massachusetts when I volunteered to teach Sunday school classes to the female inmates in the East Cambridge jail. Whilst here, I witnessed how inhumane the treatment was for the prisoners and those who had mental illness. It led me to investigate further into the cruel and neglectful practices within the prisons, almshouses, and asylums. I witnessed people being placed into cages with painful physical restraints. I also observed ill inmates who were chained naked to stone walls and cells without heat or ventilation. Man is not made better by being degraded. It became very important for me to protect the people who had been diagnosed as mentally unstable or insane, because I have personally had bouts of depression myself. I strongly advocated for improvement upon living conditions and for professional treatment centers for those individuals. Luckily, after much persistence and a fair bit of shaming of political leaders, the federal and state governments granted funding to build new asylums to expand upon already existing ones, which went into effect with more than 30 institutions. I even traveled to Europe and Asia, where I observed and exposed similar barbaric conditions. This was happening all over the world. So many people believed that individuals with mental disturbances could not be cured or helped, which is simply untrue. We have a responsibility to those who cannot speak for themselves.
Oh, hello there. William Morris, he was born in 1832 and he died in 1896. He was known for his work in response to the Industrial Revolution. He was a pioneer for the arts and crafts movement along with John Ruskin. This was an early part of the early beginnings of occupational therapy. One of his more influential works was The Useful Work versus Useless Toil.
The Industrial Revolution has brought us many changes. Most importantly, it brought the death of arts and crafts. In the past, clothing, furniture, and most goods were made by people in their homes. There was pride and fulfillment in taking a quality item for the benefit of others. This brought hope to people from taking pleasure in the work itself instead of doing repetitive work without proper rest. The arts and crafts community preserves this simpler way of life. The action of making handmade goods integrates the mind, the body, and the soul.
Jane Addams was born in 1860 and died in 1935. While Addams did not directly work with the field of occupational therapy, she was very influential in the early beginnings. Her influence is seen in Adolf Meyer's paper, The Philosophy of OT.
I first opened Hull House as a kindergarten, but soon I expanded it to include a day-long nursery program as well as an infant care center, and soon I began to add other activities throughout the day for people to attend. Eventually, Hull House provided secondary and college level classes and classes on civil rights and the civil duties.
And they lived happily ever after, before they died.